So, you know those people that worry about every single penny pinchers? They worry about, hey, I don't need this avocado. I don't need this Starbucks coffee. I don't need this. I don't need that, because every penny matters, how much you spend, where you spend it on. And if it's not a need, you don't need to spend it. Well, that's a good concept. You know, frugality is actually a good thing. However, though, life isn't about those small little decisions. Life is about getting the big things right. And if you do that correctly, you can be set for life and still have your Starbucks, still have your coffee, and not really be that worried. But there are people out there, they try to save money on small things, and then they overspend on massive things that are going to affect them forever. So this video is about that. What are those 5 main things that if you do right, you won't have to worry about money potentially for the rest of your life? That's what this video is all about. Now, as always, guys, if you're new here, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified. Now, first thing I want to say, guys, is obviously what I'm going to tell you in this video is not normal. This information, like, people don't actually do this, you know, it's going to sound extreme, but in reality, that's normal, you know, because most people, they suck at money. So when you ask someone about doing these things, I'm like, oh, you don't got to do that. It's too extreme, right? But no. These things are super important, and if you do these things correctly, you can be set for life potentially. Now, the first big thing is going to be, well, what car are you going to buy? How much does it cost, and how are you actually going to buy it? Those are the most important factors, okay? When you buy a car, you want to buy something reliable. This way it can last you 10, 15, 20 years. Don't be scared just yet. I'm not telling you to keep a car for 20 years. Don't worry. And then also, how do you buy it? You know, are you paying cash? Are you borrowing money? You usually want to pay cash also. And that's the main idea. Okay. So here's what most average people do. They want a car. And to think about it, like, it's basically a fantasy. Hey, you know what? I want this luxury vehicle. It's leather. The interior is amazing. This is the car I actually want to drive every single day. And they pay $700 a month in car payments. That's a real fact, by the way. And after about 3 months, the car just feels like a normal car. But those payments don't stop coming in, okay? They don't stop coming in whatsoever and going out of your pocket, right? And then things stop being a fairy tale at that point. But what would happen if you just paid cash for a car, right? You bought a car that cost like $3,000, $5,000, you paid cash for it, you saved up the right way. Now, what happened if you actually invested that $700 for like around 10 years or so? Now, why do I use the 10-year figure? The answer is, okay, it takes the average person about 6 years to pay off a car. And the average person keeps a car for a total amount of about 8 years, all right? That's the average person. Remember, you don't want to be average. Now, what would happen if you bought a car for cash, you invested the payments, and you kept it for 10 years? Is that possible to keep a car for 10 years? The answer is yes. You buy a Honda, Toyota, those cars will run until the wheels fall off, literally. And then you just replace them and keep running, okay? That's the idea. So what would happen, right? Well, let's go ahead and do the actual math, all right, guys? So if you use a compound interest calculator, $700 a month multiplied by 12, that gives you about $8,400. Over 10 years invested into the S&P 500 at a 10% return, basically saying you make 10%, right? The answer is, after 10 years, you'll have about $147,000, $261, and about 80 cents, all right? Now, what exactly does that mean, right? Let's say you want to go crazy. By the way, the cool thing about compound interest is if you left this money and you don't touch it, keep investing, it'll grow into a lot. But let's say you actually want to spoil yourself after 10 years. Let's say you say, hey, you know what, Tommy? That's some cool math. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grab $147,000. I'm going to take 20% of that money, right? 20%, which, by the way, I don't recommend, right? Because you actually want to have that money multiply over time. But let's say you just did that, all right? You grab 20%. That's like 30 grand. 30 grand. You buy whatever new car you want. You buy whatever used luxury vehicle you want, right? And you pay cash, you don't have to worry, and you still have left over like around like what? Like you still have left over like what? Like 110,000, 17,000, right? In reality, it's not that much of a big deal, but that's what delayed gratification actually gets you. Instead of having, for example, hey, it's been 6 years, the car is paid off, I went from basically spending 30K, the car's only worth 15K, now I sell it in 2 more years, now I got like $13,000 for it, now I buy another new car, I put down that down payment, in another few years, I'm back where I started, okay? You have nothing to show for it, but guess what? In one cycle of having one car, you have $147,000 and 30 grand to spend it on whatever you like. That's a big thing. That's a big thing. And that's what you basically want to worry about. Now, big thing number 2 is going to be the house you buy. I mean, that's massive. You know, how much money does the house cost? Where is it located? Like, who are your neighbors? Okay. And lastly, how long is it going to take you to pay it off? You know, again, average Joe, what do they do? This is going to be my dream home. It's the home I always dreamed of. It's the one I actually want, right? And then they buy the home. They get on a 30-year, like, till death do us part deal. And then, you know, after a few years, the home just turns into a regular home. A lot of expenses. You're around people that have a lot of money. Now you spend the money on other things too. Like, all these things factor in. However, what do I recommend you actually do instead? The answer is very simple. You go ahead, and I call this, for example, the 33% rule. And the idea is you get a home and the mortgage is on a 15-year mortgage. No more than that, just 15-year mortgage. On top of that, the home itself and all the payments, like the capital payment, interest payment, the taxes, the insurance, and also HOA and maintenance, all that stuff cannot be more than 33% of your monthly income, right? Once you take on those two factors, the idea is you buy a home that's affordable, that you can actually afford. Now, is it going to be in your ideal location? Maybe not. Is it going to be as big as you want it? Maybe not, right? But you also have the idea of, I could move and buy that home somewhere else, right? If your home is that like portable, whatever. I mean, your work is that portable. But if it's not, like, you buy a home that's in your budget. Now, in 15 years, you're done with that. But because you have like such like a small percentage of your income is on that home, you still have extra income to pay it off even faster, right? That's the idea. You're done with it in 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. It's still a massive difference. Now you actually own the home. It's actually yours. And at the end of the day, it's just shelter. Now remember too, a home is not an investment. Although you do have equity in it, which is cool, although it does appreciate, which is cool, because you live in it, because you did pay interest, because there are costs with this home associated, because there's no money coming in, right, from tenants, the answer is, in the end, you actually end up breaking even. That's fine, because it lowers your cost of living, lowers your risk, and if you lose your job, you don't have to worry about paying a mortgage anymore. That's massive. That's a big thing. Most people might spend 30 years, right, paying off a home they can't afford, and then they're worried about not spending money on a latte, okay, on a latte. Now, number 3 is, okay, choosing to live debt-free or not to live debt-free. You know, last year, I paid off all my student loan debt. In January, I closed all my credit cards. I just realized playing the credit card game is not a game I want to be involved in, okay? The game of I want some points, the game on I want to pay this off as fast as possible, the game of I want to like avoid interest, like that game is just stupid to me. So what I did was I paid off all my credit card debt. Now I don't have to worry about payments, about interest, or about little points or whatever. And on top of that, since I have no debt, there is no one that's calling me talking about, hey, you have to make this payment. Or whenever I get paid, all the money I get paid is mine, right? That's also a good feeling. And there is no leverage involved. Leverage is cool, right? Because I can use your money, right? Other people's money, and use it to make me more money. But if something goes wrong, then I'm kind of like, okay, I have a problem now, but I don't have to worry about that whatsoever. Now, when you actually buy a home, you can borrow money for that, right? Because it's a home and you follow the right rules, that's fine. But borrowing money to buy a car or credit cards or consumer stuff is just stupid. Just don't do it. It's just not worth it, okay? Because there are other methods that I just showed you before, right? So now number 4 is going to be what you do for a living. This is massive, all right? So there are a few things that make you happy in life, right? As far as like, you know, once you make over 70K, more money won't really change your life as far as like being happier, okay? On top of that, where you work. You know, you're probably going to work for 40 years, 45 years, maybe 30 years if you're lucky, right? But if you actually enjoy your work, it won't really feel like a burden. I mean, that's massive. You know, some days I come here, I don't want to be here, but most of the days I actually enjoy what I do for a living. I mean, that's awesome. On top of that, commute. Commute matters a lot. If you have a job where it's like super far away, you're commuting for like an hour and a half every day, that matters because that actually affects you too, right? So these are all factors to actually take into consideration. Now, on top of that, guys, all right, when you're looking for a job, it's not just about the dollar figure. Because again, if a job offers me 70,000, right, and one offers me 40,000, but this one I'm actually miserable in, and I actually have to commute there and everything else, but this one's 40K, I enjoy it, it's enough for me to actually invest and do everything I have to do, then that's more than enough. But there are some people, a small amount of people, that can actually make a lot of money doing something they actually hate and do it for a short period of time, know when to stop, and then just go into something they actually love. That's fine too. It's a transition, but you have to know when to actually stop. That's super important. But for the most part, there are so many jobs out there that I wouldn't limit myself to just doing a job I don't like just for the sake of money. Now, number 5, and the last one is, you probably guessed it, okay? It's how much money are you going to be investing? When do you start? And basically, like, what do you invest your money into? For me, I invest my money into the S&P 500. That's basically the 500 largest companies in the US. I lose everything I have if the US basically loses everything they have. I think it's a very good bet. On top of that, all right, how much can you invest? If you invest $200 for like 40 years, you'll have like $1.1 million on average. That's not bad, right? But the idea is your investment portfolio isn't going to be, for example, your do it all, whatever, right? Because if you have a paid off car, if you have a paid off home, if you don't have any debt, like, your cost of living goes down dramatically, right? If you enjoy the work you do, you don't have to stop working anytime soon, right? So investing is like this thing you build up, so when you don't have a paycheck anymore, you're solid, right? It's awesome. But it's not something you actually are going to rely on altogether. Now, I use a figure of $200 per month, but obviously you can invest a lot more than that. 500, 1,000, 700. If you're willing to pay for a car $700 per month, you can invest that much money. If you're willing to pay on a student loan like $500, $300 per month, once you're done with it paying it off, you can invest that money too, right? So that's what it's all about. Now, I have a little rule, which is basically invest between 10 to 20% of your income, right? Of your net income. Now, that's pretty good. Now, you do 10 to 15% when you're paying off your home. And then once you're done paying off the home, you can basically increase it from 10% to 15% to around 15% to 20%. That way you continue to do that over time, and it builds up and it builds up. Now, you can reach a point when basically things get very attractive. Now, let's say you've been investing for like 20 years, right? That same amount, right? So remember, guys, that example I gave you with the car, you invested $700 per month for the past like 10 years. Well, let's say you actually did it for 20 years, right? For 20 years, you did this. Well, after 20 years, you have about $500,000. That's a massive deal. Now, what does this mean, right? It means that, hey, if I have $500,000 invested after 20 years, and I can basically take out of it, it's called a 4% rule. If I can take out of it like 4% every single year to allow the money to keep growing and compounding without me actually run out of money, the answer is I can take out every single year $20,000, right? So if I just basically need to live like $70,000 a year, right? Now I can basically say, hey, I just need a job that makes me 50K. Or if I just need 40K, I just need a job that makes me $40,000. Well, 40,000 minus 20. Well, I just need a job that makes me $20,000. The idea is you can grab this extra money after 20 years, start taking money out, and work a lot less, and use some of that money for experiences, to travel or whatever you do. Now, I'm not saying delay traveling for 20 years. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this is an option, so in 10, 20 years, you can work a lot less and just enjoy a lot more leisure time on whatever you want to enjoy. But I would not. That's why it's so important that you enjoy what you do. You don't have that much leverage. You pay off your car, you pay off your home, you invest the right amount. And when you do that things correctly, you have extra money to go ahead and have those lattes and not think about it. Save it for vacations. Buy whatever you want to buy, right? As long as you're like saving up for it. That's the idea, right? So guys, that's basically it for this video. I hope it actually helps you, and I hope you focus on the big, massive things first, okay? Because if you do things correctly, you could be probably set for life. I know people that are millionaires that drive a car from like 2000 and it's 2023, right? Or a 2011 like CRV, like my friend, which has like this guy's hilarious, right? He drives a 2011 CRV. It's like a, what is it, like a 9 plus 3. It's a 12-year-old car, and he makes like over 200 grand a year. And he's like, Tommy, I just need this car to get from point A to point B. I just don't care about driving a fancy car, right? But it's his, and he's able to invest a lot more money and buy real estate, whatever he wants to do. But that's the idea. If you do the right things, the big things, important things in life, right? You can kind of just like shrivel off or shove off like all those little tiny little details here and there, okay? But thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it helped you. And as always, like, subscribe, hit the bell to get notified. Up here is another video. Over here is my face. And as always, Long Term Team officially out.